Isaac, my man, thank you for being here today. Before we kick things off, I'd love to set the tone. What's what's the number one thing you absolutely love about what you get to do every day?
I think it's really cool to be in the social media world because it's there's so much to do with creativity. I mean, you get to build. I mean, building content is always fun. I mean, just video editing in general for social media is like building little pieces, setting things up, and creating something. So like it's always fresh. There's something new. There's something new to learn all the time. So it's a very I don't know, dynamic world, I guess. So it's very interesting. Never gets
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's always changing, it seems, and that's how we originally got connected. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Isaac Wooden here, and he's a social media wizard, growth hacker, content creation specialist. He's got a lot of titles. He's one of us multi-potentialites. He was a lot of things, all to do with helping you especially as a creative professional, to better optimize and sync up your brand through this beautiful short form media that some of us, I think, dude, tell me if you get this a lot. It's a love-hate relationship for me. What do you think is the biggest problem with most people's social media accounts right now and how they approach it from your experience?
Well, I think a lot of people getting started, they try to do everything, and then never hone in on something that really, they never stick to something once they've tested a lot of things, right? So like they've got their one offer that they try to do, or multiple offers even, and then they try to do a lot of different types of content and then never stick to anything. So like biggest recommendation is to really kind of niche down on what you're trying to talk about, and then let that become your brand, and then you can branch out a little bit. But obviously there's always the testing, see what works for you, what you like to do. But once you find that out, like really stick to it. And especially in 2024, people have grown to really expect a certain type of content from creators, brands, and businesses. And if you're always changing it up and trying all these different things, people won't know how to feel. And, and your content can kind of get lost and you just really won't grow sometimes.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are listening to this show that have that same relationship as I do. There are times where I wish that my phone would just blow up, and I didn't have to deal with content and didn't have to deal with all of that. But that's just, unfortunately for some, that's just not the way it is. What do you recommend for folks that have that same kind of anxiety when it comes up to social media? Are there anything did you ever experience that yourself? I mean, how you got into it?
Absolutely, man. Social media was like honestly terrifying at first. And then, cause like you don't really know how to use the platforms at first. You don't want to jump on a camera and start doing things. So it's obviously very unnatural. But for me, like it was always like get started slowly, put in the reps, get more comfortable, and then eventually you can just do whatever, right? And then you're confident. So like,
Yeah.
dude, 3 years ago, coming on a podcast like this would have freaked me out. But I've done so many calls, interviews, I've done so much content creation where it's like, this is fun. It's fun now.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's so interesting too, because the way you just said it made something click in my head, because it's so, I don't know if ironic's the right word, it's the only one that's coming to mind, but performers, they get up on stage in front of sometimes thousands of people, have a difficulty stepping on Instagram and going live, or putting their face to, maybe they just made a song and they get nervous about like showcasing it. Like, is there a certain way that it's easier? Like, how did you make it easier for yourself? Was it just reps, or was there a certain, like, how did you get into making social media cool for you?
Yeah, I mean, I started out doing like just like pictures, like just design in like Canva, right? And then I'd start doing like when Reels started becoming popular, you could do a little clip of yourself just pointing at something, and then like a headline that would transition immediately to maybe a speech or something like that, if you're in the mindset space. But like it was very small bits of me being on camera, and then I started testing like the vlog style a little bit, seeing if I liked that. So I'd set up my camera in a bunch of random places. It was not great at first. And I did not know how to, film anything, but just those little steps where it was like slowly, gradually. And then I started doing like social media for other creators, for businesses. So I'd have to do sales calls, and I'd meet with people, talk to them. So being face to face on screen also got me used to it a little bit as well. So it was also slow and gradual, that eventually it's just like, it's not even second thought anymore.
Yeah. You said something really interesting there too, is that you just started doing creation for other creatives. So it sounds like, and from our previous chats too, this isn't something that you set out and you're like, I'm going to be a social media content specialist. Like, what were you doing beforehand when you got into the line of work that you're doing now, where you're able to, make use of your super skills in the content creation?
Yeah, well, I definitely wasn't doing anything in front of a computer. I installed sprinkler system, so I was an irrigation technician.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for a year, mastered that. I drove a truck around, right? And then for a little bit as well before that. So I got used to driving semis and just big old trucks. And then like my whole goal was like to be able to work from home, to be able to work from my phone, earn money from my phone. So I started to explore that a little bit and started testing and seeing what I could be good at. So e-commerce, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, all those different things. I tried it all. And I realized that I was not good at like the marketing side of things. Like I could build a website, make it look really cool, but I couldn't get anyone to look at it and then buy. So I had to figure that out, and that's how social media came into play. Right. So I started testing Facebook ads, learned as much as possible with that. And then I found a book called 1 Million Followers by Brendan Kane. It's kind of outdated now, but the information is still pretty valuable and all the foundational stuff there. So I read that book like 5-6 times as an audiobook. I just played over and over again in my head and just became really obsessed with like, how do you attract attention on social media? How do you get people to want to look at your stuff? And so I applied all those principles in a book that I was reading. I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and then, and then I started testing it and implementing it for myself. And then I quickly grew a page on Facebook to 10,000 followers in a week, transitioned over to Instagram, 10,000 followers in 3 months, did TikTok, 60,000 followers in 3 months, and just kind of like went through all the social media platforms, just trying and seeing what worked, seeing how I could bring value and I could be good at the platform.
Wow, dude, that's really impressive. I mean, those kind of numbers, they don't lie. And those are all real followers. That's not this BS that you hear, What's your take on that? Like the people that are out there buying followers or AI generated bots and things like that. Like, what's the take on that? Is that stuff that's going to last? Is that something that you have to be concerned with other, when somebody comes in and says, hey, well, I can work with you, or I can go like buy a bunch of followers. What's the difference? What's your thoughts on that?
So I tried the whole buying thing because I literally tried everything.
Yeah.
And buying followers was one thing I tried. I was like, well, what's the value here? Why do people do this? So I tried it and I was like, there's no point to this, because the only thing that buying followers, getting fake followers does for you is give you a good feeling. And then it's not even a good feeling, right? Because those followers aren't real. They don't care. They're not going to ever see your stuff. And then like the only people that are going to see that you have all those followers are random people that are maybe like stalking your page, right? So it's like those people are never going to buy from you, those fake followers. They're never going to like your stuff. So there's no value at all. It's just a number. And then it really just decreases the fact that like your authenticity to people. they come and check out your page. Maybe, you know, they want to do some business with you. But if you've got no likes on your content and you've got 10,000 followers, why would they trust you, right?
Yeah. And with that, then, is there, I'm sure this is a question many people are wondering, I myself, this is just out of curiosity, what, like, as a creator, let's keep it in the music space. As a music creator, which is the most important, if any, like if you had to only pick one, which is the most important? Is that an answer that you can even really say? Is it TikTok? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
Man, I think right now, like Instagram and TikTok are really strong for creators. Obviously, TikTok's been doing some weird things lately, but like you can post on both. So like, why not be active on both? There's not that level of engagement and community on TikTok, unfortunately. Like, there's no DMs, there's no like conversation with your followers. It is just not there. So like, if you've got something you created on Instagram, put it on TikTok as well.
Yeah.
Because there's the chance that it's going to pop off. People are going to visit your profile, follow you there, and they're like, oh, look, he's on Instagram. I'll go and check him out. So one thing that I did notice last year, I had a few reels go viral, millions of views and stuff like that on TikTok. Yeah. People would go to my TikTok and then go over to my Instagram and use that audio from TikTok on my Instagram. So like, TikTok's like the funnel. So if you're a musician, use your music on TikTok, funnel people to your Instagram, funnel people to your TikTok page, to your link in bio, right? Yeah. And if they're on Instagram and if they're on TikTok, want to use your audio on Instagram, they're going to go and find you on Instagram. So like the two platforms kind of work together, but you're definitely going to have that more of an engaged community on the Instagram side of things, especially people just DMing you, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, so it seems like you can nurture the actual relationship a little more on the Instagram. Where does Facebook fall into this? I know it's part of the Meta suite now, so it's like, where does that? Is that still relevant? Is that more a long form thing? What's the purpose of somebody getting a Facebook page or a group or even just their personal profile?
Yeah, you know, man, they've changed so much in the last year. Right now, people can get a lot of views on Facebook Reels. It's really just an unutilized opportunity. I mean, I started a random Facebook page just sharing gaming clips from when I play some games in the evening, and my first reel got over 100,000 views. But like, what are you supposed to do with that attention, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's not one of those platforms that like invest a ton of time in, because 5 years ago you didn't have any reach on Facebook fan pages, but this year you do. So it's so up and down.
Yeah, like you said, it's always changing. I can see what you mean by having such a dynamic role in the industry. It's just like,
it's just changes.
Tomorrow Facebook might not even exist. Like, you know, and I think that's the frustration, at least in the conversations that I have with other creators, or especially the music world, where they're just so frustrated. It's like, I just made this album that took me 6 months, and now it's actually hard work to promote it and get it out there because we have to use this social media thing. So for the folks that are sitting there thinking, oh yeah, that's me, I just made a single and now I have to do 6 times as much work because I've got all these media platforms. You just said it. What can they do? Say their reel blows up and they get 100,000 views on it. Then what? What's the next step? How do we capitalize on it?
Well, if I'm on TikTok and Instagram and I like a song that someone's creating a reel about, I always go to their bio and find the platform that I listen to music on and go and then add it to my playlist from there. One creator, and you probably have heard of him, or artist, Benson Boone. Freaking love his stuff. He's got one song, I think, in an album. I want to say an album that popped off. It's the song slipping my mind, man. But he's just creating tons and tons of different types of reels and adding his audio to it, his song audio to it. So it's not like a one and done. Hey, I made my my song, my single, and then I'm going to create one reel on it or maybe 2 reels. You can keep doing it. So, I mean, go check out his page right now. Like I think every single reel he's done in the last month has had the one audio to his hit song on it.
This would be a little fun little experiment because we can do all this. Okay, we'll go Instagram, and you said it was Benson Boone?
Yeah.
See if I can spell that. Benson Boone. Okay. So we can do a little, oh, that is definitely not that. He's got 0 posts and 5 followers. Wrong guy. Boone, B-U, okay. Spell it out for me here. Come on, bud.
Let me look it up real quick.
That's Benson. Here, maybe if I just search it. Benson. Oh, with an E. There we go. 1.6 follower. 1.6 mil. Okay, cool. Let me do a little screen share and let's check this shit out. Da-na-na. Da-na-na. Here we go. Okay. Can you see what I'm seeing, bud?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the homie that we're talking about. Okay, so he's got All right. So he's
toggle up to his Reels page.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Let's just click this. See what happens.
Yeah, beautiful thing.
All right. That's cool. I mean, I see what you mean. Yeah, so he's just like a cool dude doing shit with his music. That's cool. What catches my eye in the back on that one is like the mirror. Like, how did that happen? I don't understand that.
Well, he's been recording. If you were to look through all of his other reels, like he's been recording in his, I want to say it's like his living room or something, and that mirror is in multiple reels.
It's interesting.
I think it was a couple days ago. I was just like, I saw one of his reels, so I was like, oh, this is so cool. Visited his page. I was like, all right, what other songs he got out? So I started scrolling through his reels, just looking, and they're all the same audio. Like it was like 6 in a row.
Yeah.
They're all popping up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had Abelhart, and that was one of the first things why I wanted to have him on the show too. Because like if you check his thing out, let's go over there. This is actually a really good exercise. Everybody who's watching is getting, yay, this is cool. Okay, let's do this. Because like Abelhart did the same thing. Like bunch of followers, his really, really engaging reels, and all the same song for the most part, right? Like, right? So it's still hitting on the things that I think a lot of people that I talk to anyways, they want to be doing stuff that's more than just like, shaking their ass on Instagram with their songs playing in the background. They still want to have some sort of a value, right? Connor Price is another great. Have you checked out his stuff? He's a Canadian kid from Toronto who's got this incredible hook meets story meets series. And when he programs that, like all of his reels, they're engaging. So like people want to follow the whole thing. It's like a breadcrumb. Right. What other creators are really good examples in your books for people that want to just, is that something that you when you bring somebody on, you'd be like, who are your favorite creators? I mean, that's what I do as a coach. Like, who's your favorite podcast? Who's your favorite musician? That's how you start to write songs. I mean, that was just how I learned how to write good songs. You listen to their favorite artists and you just start to mirror things. So like, what are some tips for people listening and being like, okay, well, I can kind of get behind it. I don't have to shake my ass.
Yeah. Well, I think there's this quote where it's like, steal from one person, it's like theft. Steal from like 10 people, it's research. So I do always ask whenever I'm onboarding a new client, it's like, give me 5-6 people that you really like that's in your space. And then let me look at them. What are they doing well? What can we do that's similar? Can we take that format? Can we take how they're telling that story, how they're giving that value? Can we take that and then put a different spin on it, right?
Yeah.
So definitely do the research with like 5 to 10 other people in your space. Yeah.
Right. That's a really good point. Show you this Connor Price guy. Are you familiar with him?
Name sounds really familiar.
Yeah. I'm sure you've probably seen his stuff because it's like everybody started to do this. He was the first guy. I don't know if he's the original on these types of pieces, but everybody now calls it like the Connor Price model, right? Like he's got a full, he was an actor, right? Like that was the thing. And his wife is like a media specialist. So it's like super cool shit. Why can't why can't we all just do cool shit like that, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that's like, I'm stuck in that. I get funneled into that, and I'm hooked, and I'll watch like 6 or 7 of his videos, and I realize, oh God, there's an hour, right? But that's the purpose, right? And every single time he comes out with something new, I'm first on that. Like when he's got a pre-sale or something, I'm like, yep, got it. That's a bop, you know? Like I love his music. So it's just a really interesting way of how he's cracked the code per se, you know?
Well, I watched that video, and he's doing like 3 things right, really right with that. Is one, he's got storytelling, you know? He's going to walk you through this entire story. You're going to get some value from it. And then he's got like the Mr. Beast style of video where he's going to straight up tell you what he's exactly going to do. So you get you get the reward if you stay for the story, right?
Right.
You know, he's not going to start it and then 30 seconds later you figure out what's going on.
Right.
And then that's kind of one of the things I noticed. And then the third thing is he's got an object in his video that he's moving around, and it was the globe or his phone, right? Something else to pay attention to, just a visual that keeps you hooked. People like Alex Hormozy or some just like other big creators, business owners, they're like, they're messing with something in their hand, and it has to do with the reel. So if you can do that as well, tell people what you're about to talk about, and then actually have a story that provides some value, or maybe even just solves a problem. Like that guy just, you know, potentially just got that guy a ton of new monthly viewers, right? So that's the story, that's the value, and you want to see how it ended. So
you know what would be fun here? Just see on Spotify where he's at now. This is the beautiful thing with screen shares. Is that, cool. You know, you're the scientist on this stuff. This is so applicable. I'm sure this is the kind of stuff that you do. You gotta like test and retest and Anas. Let's see how many. Let's see. Oh, fuck. Yeah, dude, check this out. This is ridiculous. Let's just go over to
wow.
500,000.
Nice.
That's wild. Hey, it works, man. It works.
It works, yeah.
And it works here's the thing. It doesn't, like, this brings up something that's really important to me too, because like a big part of the work that I do is much more the connector, you know, like referral. I would much rather, like, yeah, cool. It's cool that you like my shit, but I would much rather bring other gangsters into my world and have them help and support people in areas that they know that they can be very effective, right? That's the purpose of the podcast, is to connect people with the other gangsters in the world, right? So that's powerful beyond the selfishness of Mike World, Mike Inc. Part of my biggest contribution is just, you know, connecting people with other people that are really, really great at what they do. And that is super cool to go from 379 monthly listeners to 500,000 in who knows when that was, right? Like it doesn't matter. I mean, it happened in the year. Like, when did he post that? I don't even know. It doesn't seem like it was too long ago. Like, February 2nd, he posted that. Who knows if that's when he did the filming, but maybe we can argue that that's within a month or so.
Yeah, changed someone's life right there.
Dude, that's wild. And I mean, now you can at least go buy a coffee with the amount of streams that he gets, because that's how much Spotify pays out. And that's the thing, though, and tell me if you agree, like, we could treat streaming platforms the same way as like TikTok. Like TikTok actually, up until this whole Universal Music thing came up, they were paying out more than Spotify on their as a streaming platform. They were paying out more per play. which is pennies and still better than Spotify. So say what you will about the TikTok debate and everything. They were at least paying a little bit more. It's still nowhere near where it needs to be. And what if creators, like musicians especially, started looking at those platforms, like you said earlier today, as a funnel? Like, okay, great. Now he's got 500,000 followers. What can he now do due to the social media exposure that he just got? Like, he can tour. Like, those plays are coming from different cities. He's got merch he can sell for a higher ROI, right? So it's like, there's so much more. I really think there is value for those that are the skeptics on like, oh, I don't want to be on social media as much. Well, do you want to impact people with your music? Do you want to get out there? Like, this is part of the world we live in right now. I don't know if there's another way. One thing I wanted to really talk about, because I know this is it's a hot button issue. What are your thoughts with AI? How does AI and the algorithm really, do they work together? It seems like Instagram's always changing. What role do you see AI, if any, in the next year? Maybe forecast 5 years? Is it still growing? Is it still a big hype? What does it do to creators?
I think the big thing right now is that it's just really trendy to talk about. It's such a new thing. It's such a powerful thing that like it's just on it, and it's everywhere and it's in front of everyone. So like I feel like in maybe a few years, once maybe development on it slows down a little bit and people are interested in other things, it's not going to be such a huge, widely talked about topic. But I think the big thing to realize is that some jobs definitely will be replaced, but like those are the super repetitive ones. The content creators that will succeed are the ones that use AI as an assistant, right? Rather than have them do all the content for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then platforms are all going to just start to integrate it and make it have their own versions of AI that really just help you and just create a better experience for people, right? So that's my opinion on and take on AI. I think we definitely should be using it, but use it as an assistant, use it as a tool to progress your content and output further. As far as Instagram and Facebook using it, I think it's just them pushing it and trying to stay ahead with all the top competitors, right? Like ChatGPT and DALL-E, their image generator. You can kind of do that on Facebook right now as well. Like everyone's just kind of competing to try to just stay at the top.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be interesting to see where it goes. That's my take on it, at least.
Yeah, well, and I think it goes to show that growth, there's so much unknown about it. There's so much uncertainty that the one thing that we do know is, and tell me if you agree, the one thing I know anyway, regardless of what I post, it's all about the relationship that you get to build. Regardless of if you have 1,000 followers or 500,000, who's making more impact if you can go out and you can actually have that deeper impact to make somebody make change, get them across the line, whatever it is. Maybe it's buying a song, maybe it's coming out to a show, maybe it's, if you're a coach or if you're a wellness professional, maybe it's getting them into one of your masterminds or getting them into one of your coaching programs, something to get them across the line. I'm sure you've heard of like the 1,000 raving fans. It's like, it's a similar kind of thing. How many do we have to focus on the numbers? Like what is really truly your relationship with the word growth, and how do we know when it's more like an ego, like, oh, we need those metrics, those vanity metrics, like you already alluded to it with buying followers and shit. That doesn't work. So what's the boundary on that? Like, how do we, if I'm sitting down with you as a client, how do we get this person to go, okay, cool, we need a certain amount, but now we can really focus on nurturing those relationships? Is there a point there?
I'm going to try to answer that question best I can. I think once you have a system that works or that's getting you some results, it less becomes about the amount of numbers per se, but more about like it becomes more about the output than the external validation, right? So if doing this sells a song, how many times can you do that, right?
Right.
And not so much about the followers, because like likes, I love this quote where it's like likes ain't cash.
Right.
So as long as you're doing what's working, focus on that rather than how many followers you got.
Right. Yeah. Because I love those. I think you hit it right on the head with guys like Connor or Mr. Beast. You know, they've got a very engaging. Hormozy is another great one. It's always engaging, and that brings people in, keeps them on that platform, gets them inquisitive of like what they're actually talking about, so that they go and do the extra work. So, you know, Hormozy's selling courses, or Hormozy's doing whatever. Connor's selling songs. It's like, if you can get them across that line, I'm in agreement. I don't think it needs to be like a huge amount of numbers. It's just it's got to be more effective rather than like metrics of vanity. Yeah, like Saint Cash.
Yeah, because there's like this is interesting where you'll find these weird little, not weird, but these smaller creators that have like maybe 3,000 followers, and they're making a ton of money.
Yeah,
and they've got the proof that shows they're making a ton of money. And then you see these really big creators, and you're like, wait, why aren't you making that much money? Right. So, focus on what's working for you. Just because someone else seems like they got it going for them, it's social media. They're posting their best stuff. They're posting how they want to be perceived, right?
Yeah.
And then the last thing I definitely would say is like, just because it didn't do well on one platform doesn't mean it's not going to do well on others. It's like, don't be afraid to try out and share your content to other platforms, even if it just bombed on one platform.
Yeah.
I posted, for an example, I posted a reel yesterday. I spent like 3 hours making this reel.
Yeah.
Ton of time, energy, focus. Posted it to Instagram. My followers aren't used to seeing it. It just didn't get shown. And I posted over to YouTube. Several new subscribers, as many views as possible, and like TikTok. Yeah, exactly.
Hands up,
Yeah.
like whatever, right?
Yeah, you're in the hands of the platform, right? So
yeah,
it may not suck as bad as it seems.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us got to keep in check, is that it's social media, guys. Like, it's not determinant of your self-worth and your value. And before we wind things down, it's been bugging me. It's sitting in the back. You've got a keyboard in there. We haven't even talked about your relationship with music. So are you still currently playing, or what's the relationship to music? When did you know music was something for you?
My parents forced me to take piano lessons growing up. So just recently, I was like, you know what? This is something I want to do. I've been trying to learn as much little things as possible. I'm going to pick this thing back up. So we got a keyboard. I'm just working on it slowly.
Sweet, dude.
I haven't played in 5-6 years. So we're picking it back up, and I'm going to master this thing. So put it in the office and just working on it slowly.
I bet it's nice just, when you take a break from the screens. That's what I do. I keep music all around me. Really got my wood flutes over here. I got guitars in the back. I've got for a long time I had my handpan in. I've got just like a little steel tongue drum. So it's just like anytime I get up and move around, I'm either like moving with a mace or a kettlebell. It helps with the mindset, I find. Like, you could be draining yourself just sitting in emails or sitting in production. For me, it's like either podcasts or music or both. It's just like, it's a nice break. So you're working on a bunch of rudimentary stuff. Any favorite songs or any favorite bands or anything like that for you? Like something that would be like a goal for you to be playing?
Dude, I love playing like the slow pop music, like the slow pop songs. That's kind of my goal, is to just be able to do that. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I'm not a master. But maybe by the end of the year, check in with me. I'll have a few songs that I can play.
Dude. We'll have part 2 up. We'll check in. We'll make sure. On that note, what would be like the dream concert or festival or lineup of bands that would be like a bucket list for you?
Well, we've actually bought tickets to go see NF. He'll be here in KC. So in May, we're going to go see him. I'd love to go and hear Black Veil Brides.
Okay.
Really love their music. Andy Black is great singer. So I think definitely those two for sure. My music taste is definitely changing. So
Yeah.
figuring it out too.
And that's the beautiful thing with music too, though. And coming back to all of this in social media, just it feels like a good way to cap it, because so much of social media can make people super anxious, can make them really depressed, if they're not getting the likes that they're expecting. And it puts us into a dark, dark place. I know a lot of people have to do detoxes, and that sounds like an addiction. So what have you done when, either for yourself or for clients that come to you who have got a serious addiction to it and it's affecting their mindset? Do you have any techniques or any kind of skills or any books or resources that you've been following that have helped you get out of that spot or help other clients?
I think people definitely can get addicted to scrolling. I think it's important to realize that you do have the issue, and then definitely delete the app for a little bit. Set some limits to it. Change the colors on your phone to be black and white, to where it's just not as attention grabbing. But also realize that social media is always changing, and this is a mindset shift I had to make, was where it's just because my content may not be performing as well as I think it is, doesn't mean it's my fault per se. Because the platforms are always changing. More people are posting at certain times. More people are making greater content, right? So this year, Instagram's prioritizing viral content over smaller creator content. So it's you got to kind of learn to detach, and it's a mindset shift you got to make. That it's not necessarily, it's not your fault, right? That maybe you're not getting as many likes as you think you are.
Yeah.
To kind of put this in perspective, I got one post that went viral, and that was a great feeling. 1.5 million likes on it. I got 15,000 followers in the course of a month.
Yeah.
And since then, I've started to really hone in my voice, the type of content that I want to create, and I've gotten better at that. But a lot of those followers have dropped off because that's not exactly why they followed me. To put this in perspective, I've lost 7,000 followers over the last couple months.
Yeah.
And that could be crushing to a lot of people.
For sure.
Right? But you got to kind of put yourself in the right, frame of mind that just your Instagram account isn't life, right? Find some other creative output, find some other way to entertain yourself.
Yeah.
Try to put down your phone as much as possible. Be conscious of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that, dude. That's wise words. For me, when I feel that, I sit back and I grab a book. I'll play some music. What kind of things do you like to do?
I like to read. I like to just sit and honestly think, because with all the media, all the advertisements, all the noise in the world, sometimes the best thing you can do, man, is just turn it all off. Don't even have music playing in the car. You don't need to always be consuming and always just have something on in your mind and on around you.
Yeah.
My best stuff is either in periods where I'm where there's just nothing going on, or everything that's going on around me is just really just slowed down and just intentional, I guess is the word.
Right. Gives you a lot more time to just be rather than do. Right.
Yep.
Dude, what a great way to chop things up here. I think round 2 is definitely in the works, though. I want to know what you're doing with the music. I want to see what kind of books and what kind of accounts you're growing out there. Just for the people out there who want to learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way to reach out? What kind of things have you got going on right now, Isaac? And typically, how can people get into your world, man?
Man, the best way is on Instagram. Reach out on there, Isaac J. Wooden. That's kind of my handle everywhere. So yeah, cool. Come send me a message over there.
Yeah, and then do a little audit. And I know I've got plans in the springtime to revisit working with you, and I think that in our brief discussion, just the amount of input that you gave me has already helped me anyway. And yeah, I thought that was really valuable. So I'm looking forward to when the springtime comes up and I can get a little more clarity about what I want to do in my social world. I know the guy I'm going to. So as we like to close this one off, what is the one key piece, if you will, a secret to success for anybody who wants to blow up the content creation game and do real well with their social media?
I think it's just going to come down to consistency and iteration. You stay at it long enough, you see what works, you make tiny changes, and that's really the best thing you can do. Yeah, stay at it and then make the tiny changes that you can, and eventually, over a long enough period of time, you'll get things that just pop off. You'll get the one guy that notices you and makes a reel about you, and you get 500,000 views in 1 month. Like, that's just how it works. You gotta put yourself out there long enough, and then you'll get noticed, or something will take off.
Yeah, it's like just having that consistency. It comes down to like no matter who you're playing to, like even if you're playing to the bartender, just keep on playing like you're playing a million people, and eventually that one person that needs to hear it. That's been reiterated in numerous conversations I've had in the recent weeks, man. So I think we should take that as a sign, folks. Isaac J. Wooden on Instagram and all socials. Guys, you know where to find him. I'll make sure we got that and all of the resources that we were talking about drop down into the description here for today. Isaac, thank you once again so much for your time, your space, and your energy, brother. I'm looking forward to round 2 down the line.
Sounds awesome. Thanks, Mike.